why don't you tell us about your earliest memory at the farm in Nemaha?
At the farm in Nemaha, we lived in several, probably I think 4, maybe 5 different farms down there. My memory of living in that area down there goes to a farm that was towards Stella, between Schubert and Stella on that road there, that highway there. And that's the first memory that I have. We went down there and we were shucking corn. Dad and Mom were shucking corn by hand. Dad would take 2 rows, 3 rows from the wagon, and Mom would be in the row by the wagon.
What is shucking corn? What is that?
Husking corn.
Well, maybe somebody doesn't know what that is.
Oh, okay. They don't know what husking is?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it's taking the ear of corn off the stalk.
Okay, they cut it off? They got a knife and they cut it off?
No, they take it off by hand.
Twist it and throw it in a bucket?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dad gave us boys each one of those corn husking things, and I have it out in the garage, that they used, and Terry and I were in the wagon. We stayed in the front of the wagon. I remember we left the house and the place where the horses were at. We left it at dark. There was a lantern on the front of the wagon, and we left at dark to go out and start shucking corn.
Wow. How long did you last? How long did you go? All day?
Yeah. I remember we came in before dark though, so we could. Well, so Dad and Mom could take. Mom probably would get supper, and Dad would feed the horses and put them in the barn.
Did Grandpa, did he farm with horses, or did he have a tractor? Or both?
I think that early. My first memories.
Mm-hmm.
My first memories was with the horses at least shucking the corn, and they may have. Sometimes the farmers would get together and help one another, and they may have planted the corn with a tractor, but they could also have planted corn with horses. So, and I'm not really sure on that.
Okay. And then you talked about Uncle Terry. What did you? Was Uncle Al around yet on this farm, or is this just you and Uncle Terry?
Uncle Al was not born yet.
Okay.
He was soon to be born.
Okay.
But then it was just me and Terry.
And what did you and Uncle Slick do? Do you remember? Is there anything that you guys did, or was you still pretty young at this point?
Well, we were really young. We were really young, so we just rode in the front of the wagon and dodged the ears of corn.
Was the wagon pulled by a horse?
By 2 horses,
Okay.
yeah, a team of horses.
Was that Daisy and Dolly, or was that
No,
Grandpa
Daisy.
Hall?
That one horse was Dad's. Dad had 2 horses, but one died, so he borrowed a horse by the name of Goldie from Grandpa Hall to shuck the corn. And Goldie, she was kind of contrary, so there was a little problem with her.
So that was your earliest memory. Where did you go next? You said that.
Where did we go next? Well, there was one other farm that we lived on before that, and I can just barely remember it. I can just remember the house, and I don't know what we did. But after we left there, we went just north of the highway, and I think we moved up by it was north of the highway, and west of Schubert is where it was at, and down there in those days, you, if you rented a farm, and that's what Dad did, is he rented. And if you rented a farm, you would move to the farm, as I remembered, on March the 15th. So you could start getting the crops and stuff ready.
The Ides of March.
What's that?
March 15th is the Ides of March, right? From Shakespeare?
I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Didn't know that.
Well, didn't they back in those days, they went a lot by holidays, their planting season? Didn't they say plant your potatoes on Good Friday and stuff like that? Do you remember anything like
some
that?
of it, yeah. Some of, I mean, it wasn't set in concrete or anything that I remember, but yeah, there were times for it.
Yeah. What about, do you remember leaving the country and coming to the city? What do you remember about that?
Well, give me a moment here to think about it.
Think about it a bit.
Yeah,
I'll entertain you with some.
There was quite a bit of stuff that went in between the time that I just told you about and when we actually moved to Omaha.
Okay, you want to fill in that gap a little bit, maybe?
Well, yeah, I will a little bit. Dad, he worked for different peoples. We moved to the town of Nemaha. Actually, Terry and I had started school down by Rulo,
Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Bert and Charlie from Rulo, Nebraska.
That's right. That's where we started school. And we went to that school from probably August to March. And you'd move on around March the 15th because of that. I don't know if that's anything like the sharecroppers down south or not, but that's what we did. We left down at Rulo, and we left the farm then for good. Dad didn't do well on the farm. And I don't know the reason for it, because I think he was a good farmer, but I think maybe Dad had too much party time. And the reason I say party time is because that's what Mom calls it.
Grandma called it that?
Yeah.
Party time?
Called it his party time, and apparently he enjoyed his party time. But then we moved to Nemaha, and he worked in a grain elevator there for a guy whose name that I'll remember after a while, and I'll blurt it out. You know, that's Floyd Carmichael.
Very good.
Floyd Carmichael, and I remember one incident there when Dad worked in that grain elevator. Kathy was probably just a toddler, and Al may have been 3 years old. And they were at the grain elevator in the office, and Mom was there, and Kathy and Alan were there in the office, and Kathy was playing in the safe that was in the office, you know. And Al ran over and slammed the safe door on her finger, and it cut the end of it off.
Oh.
Whew. Mom was upset.
Wow.
She was upset with Al. But that wasn't the last time. She had.
So how did Aunt Kathy do with her? How did they fix her finger?
Didn't.
Just taped it up and told her to
I guess.
get back in the game.
Yeah. And I suppose if she were here today, she could show you what's cut off. Yeah. If you think about that when she comes back, ask her about it.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's a new one.
Yeah. You didn't know. Well,
I'm sure we'll get lots of Uncle Al stories in this.
I don't know about that. If you had Slick here, you.
Oh my goodness, Uncle Slick.
All right.
Okay, that was when Grandpa worked at the grain elevator.
Yeah. I think one year. I think the next fall he was he worked.
Was that by the river? Did they dump it into the barges, or was it by a railroad track?
It was by a railroad track, and not far from the Missouri River.
Okay.
Maybe, I'd say maybe a mile. If we go down there sometime, I'll take you and show you.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, because I always stop there in Nemaha anyway, because that's where Aunt Dee still lives, and she's our last living aunt on the Hall side. So I always stop to see Aunt Dee.
Here's a story I remember you telling me. Tell us about driving on the Missouri River when it was frozen.
Oh, this wasn't something that I saw. This was a story that Mom told us.
Okay.
And back before Missouri River was dredged, you know, and there wasn't a lot of hot water being poured into the river up here in Omaha then, like there is now and whatever. So,
What do you mean hot? By
well,
chemically?
out of a factory or
Okay, yeah.
something like that. So the Missouri River didn't freeze over so much as back then, and so Grandpa Hall, Mom's dad, he owned a farm over in Missouri, and I'll take you there sometime too. I like to go see that, but I'll take you there, and if you want to go.
Yeah, we'll do that.
And you know, here's just a sideline, but when I was pastoring out here at Southwest, there was a lady that came and asked me if I would baptize her grandson. And we talked, and I said, yeah, and I did. And so I got to talk to her a little bit more, and her husband a little bit, and her son and stuff. And they lived over in, I call it Rockport. I guess it is Rockport, Missouri. But probably not exactly, but it's close to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to find out that she lived there in Rockport. Grandpa and Grandma lived there, around there, a couple of years, I think. And come to find out that we are related, because she was, her mother was a Hall who was not Grandpa's Hall family, but a cousin of Grandpa Hall. And so we would be second cousins. And so now whenever I'd see her at church, we'd say, hello, cousin. Hello, cousin. And that was, that's been a very nice experience.
That's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's her cousin, or maybe a young uncle, who knows Aunt Dee. And he lives in Kansas City now, but when he comes up, and he's probably too sick to do it anymore, he'd come up and he'd go down through Nemaha and stop and talk to Aunt Dee.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, so, man, you never know who you're related to. Be careful.
Who your cousin is.
Yeah, be careful who you talk about.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so back to Grandma's story about driving on the river.
Oh, okay.
Nice, so
Okay. So we
I
got
wanna hear this.
this now. The river freezes over.
Okay, and this is Grandpa Hall. This is when Grandma Kennedy is a small girl, right?
Yeah, she's not old enough to drive yet.
Okay, so we're thinking like mid 1920s here, 1930.
No, I'm going to say that you're closer there. With
22, 25,
20,
something
yeah,
like that. Okay.
See, when you, yeah, and what would happen? Mom was, I don't know, the fifth oldest. I think there were 3 younger than Mom, and there were 8 in the family, or 7. And they would, they had the oldest child was Uncle Hap. And the way Mom told the story is that when they wanted to go over, when Grandpa wanted to go over to the farm in Missouri in the wintertime, there's no bridge, and or Zeiss.